Hello and welcome to IGN Overclocked. My sheet says episode 4. I'm pretty sure it's episode 5. My name is Mitch Dyer. I'm joined by Marty Sleeve.
Hi, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We're also joined by Brian Albert.
What's up, everyone?
What's up, everyone? And Brandon Terrell.
Howdy. Hello.
Your first time on this very young show.
It's very young
Your
show.
inaugural appearance.
Getting in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
This show is old enough to drink.
Nope. God, I hate that joke in podcasts so much. Where everyone always talks about, like, oh, it's the Sweet 16 because it's episode 16, episode 21.
Episode 18.
You suck, Marty.
Jesus Christ, I didn't realize it was like a podcast trope.
Oh, just because you're living in your house of beyond privilege at 200 episodes.
Beyond privilege.
Oh, you know how they give babies like a little bit of rum when they're teething? Is that a thing you still do, or is that child abuse?
Brian Albert asking the real
It's
question.
very clear that we're from the Midwest. Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
I don't know what's that. Speaking of babies, Dan Stapleton, his wife had their baby, so that's why Dan's not here.
Great way to
Got a real child.
Real segue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could ask Dan that, and he would be able to have the answers for you. Ostensibly, Overclocked is a show about PC video games, but
And child rearing.
and child rearing. That's fine.
That's weird. I thought that was a thing.
I know what you're talking about. Like, people definitely do slash
You like
did
dab
it.
your thumb in like rum and put it in their mouth when they're teething.
Yeah, because
and
it
just like
numbs.
It
I don't
numbs
know
the
if that's
pain.
bad. I'm not saying do that.
Hey, babies.
Let's talk about video games.
Your baby's crying, put some gin in its face, and I'll be quiet. And go to
Your baby's
sleep.
crying, give it bottomless mimosas.
There's no really easy way to segue into this. Brian Albert, why don't you just talk to us about Zombie? This is the Wii U sort of flagship horror game. It was the really cool, interesting roguelike that everyone thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if this was on literally any other platform? And now it is, and it's on PC, and that's great. And you've been playing it a little bit.
A lot of it.
A lot of it.
You're doing the review?
Yes, the review will be up when the show goes up.
Oh, man, now it's a race to see if I can make Brian wrong.
No.
So tell us a little bit about Zombie not on Wii U.
Zombie. Well, I was really interested in this game when it was on Wii U, but that was a launch title in 2012. And I didn't work at IGN, so I didn't have access to Wii U. So I was like, whatever, no ZombiU for me. But now it's here.
Yeah.
And it is mostly the same game. They added some more melee weapons because there used to just be the cricket bat. They got rid of the multiplayer mode, which used the gamepad, so you can't use that.
Yeah.
But mostly it's kind of the same thing, which is just like, I don't think it did very well before, and so they're probably just trying to get some sales.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
make it
especially as a
profitable thing.
launch game for
So-
Wii U, it didn't go well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how many Wii U's are out there right now? How many
14.
Wii U's were out there in 2012?
12.
So
One for each year.
They've sold
one for
two
each
sets.
out.
Congrats, guys.
Anyway, the big hook, if you're not familiar with the game, is that if you die, your character is just done, and they are zombified.
Yeah.
And they have your bug out bag with all your equipment that you stored in it, and you have to go kill your old self and get your equipment back.
Yeah.
Which can be really tough if you didn't stash away extra stuff before. If you're just carrying it all around.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up?
No, it's just it was a really interesting premise. Like, it's sort of Dark Soulsy in terms of you want to go back to where you died, even though you know it's a dangerous spot.
Yeah.
And you have to kill your former, playable character, and you have to get your stuff back. And it was just, I don't know, to me it was a really interesting core mechanic that I would have loved to see them expand upon in a sequel.
It's an interesting narrative thing, too. Like, it's like the entire game is built on the back of dramatic irony. Like, you know where that body is because you lived that life, you played, you explored, you know the route. That's where I died. And now you inhabit like you're like a lady now, and now you're like, all right, I'm gonna go straight there
Yeah.
and find that dude and kill him
Yeah.
and take that stuff.
But at the same time, I feel like sometimes, for me anyway, like I know you can speak to this a little bit, having played a bunch, but Rust.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have all your stuff, and then you get murdered.
Yep.
And then you wake up somewhere else, and it's sort of one of those. You die primarily when it's a situation you can't overcome, and now you're given less to perform, sort of, or to go back to the same area.
You're
So
hamstrung a bit.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, I have nothing, so it's worth the risk to go die with nothing to get something.
Yeah.
The one thing the game does not do a good job of at all is making you care about your survivors. I literally just care that they're holding my stuff. They have new names, and like
They don't have anything.
But
like,
and it doesn't even make
Barbara's
sense
better with
narratively
bats,
because
or-
you have a safe house and then you leave and potentially go die.
Yeah.
And if you die, you come back as a new character who's just in the safe house, and they know everything you knew, and they have all the progress you had. So like there's no they don't even try.
Yeah.
To connect.
Man, I feel
why
like there's
they
a really
know who
missed
you are.
opportunity to have like characters who just talk to themselves, or you just hear their thoughts or whatever, right? And have people who are very confident which then might drive the way you play. It's like, oh, this guy's really confident. I feel good too, and now I'm going to be extra ballsy.
Yeah.
Or if a character is talking about how terrified they are of everything and they're nervous, then maybe your play reflects that a little bit.
Yeah, they're weird. They just kind of like laugh as you're hitting zombies.
Yeah, it would be cool if they sort of took like stuff from Rogue Legacy, where like your characters have like inherent traits.
Yeah, that'd be really
Or State of Decay.
Yeah,
Well,
totally.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
exactly.
one of your survivors dies, and you're like, oh, Andrew was the gun guy. Now what do I do?
We basically just turned this into a discussion of what we want from a new zombie game.
Yeah, pretty much,
Which
honestly.
isn't a bad conversation.
So
Yeah.
how do they? The game made really dramatic use of the gamepad and the second screen, and the fact that you had to keep looking down to your gamepad and then back to the TV. Like, how do they overcome that?
Yeah, so I didn't play, but you had to look down at your inventory, which then took your eyes off if there were zombies.
Yeah.
First of all, you constantly have a radar pinging that tells you if something is coming near. So that doesn't seem too spooky anyway.
Yeah.
But now there's
Can
no
you turn it off?
gamepad. No, well, you have to hit Y to ping, and then when you upgrade it, it just auto ping. It just keeps
Wait,
going.
it's just automatically. Is it like Aliens too?
It's
Yeah.
like, and then
They're
anything that
just
moves
like,
or
"They're in
is
the walls,
alive.
man."
So it'll pick
Bill
up
Pax.
like we're just veering off a little bit, but there's a room with like 6 dots in it, and I was like, not going in.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were all rats.
So
okay.
that's pretty cool.
I was
Yeah.
going to joke.
Right?
Does it pick up rats or dogs?
But yeah, now it just puts the inventory in the middle of your screen, and the camera zooms out, and you can kind of see around your character. The main problem I have with the game is that the combat is just so repetitive. The cricket bat is really weak. It takes like, I would say like 3 hits is like good. Like that was an easy fight, and then like 5 to 6.
Oh man,
for
yeah.
other fights.
It all just
Like-
came flooding back. I remember when Greg was reviewing this game for Wii U.
Yeah, you can read his review.
I
and
was like,
it's-
this is so cool. And then I
keeps-
watched any videos of him playing it. I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like he's just wailing on the same enemy over and over and over and over. And in a game where lethality matters for you, having to stand there and just like mindlessly beat on a zombie's head
And-
is so disappointing.
sometimes
Is there weight to it though? Like, I mean, or is it just literally
no,
like-
it's not.
Oh,
Like
that's the worst.
You can get a shovel. They added a shovel and like a spiked bat or something to the game, and they help. They can hit multiple enemies at once, so it does cut down on that a bit. But like I was saying in the review, like I found a double-barreled shotgun with a bunch of ammo, and I was like, because like weapons are not strong and you don't get a lot of ammo. But then I found a shovel, and I was like, oh yeah, like we're in business, you know. I don't know how poorly that game did, but I hope this helps kind of recoup some sales and enough for a sequel. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
and that's
love what's
where
there.
I wanted to go with this. Like we already started talking about what we want from it, but like I hope that this is a ploy for them to build up interest, to see if there is interest in the sequel, because they priced it at $20. They removed some of the features, and that's why it's cheaper. But it seems like it's cool still. Like that game has problems, yeah, but at the same time, it is novel and it has all these really cool ideas that made it interesting as a Wii U launch game. And now finally, more people are getting to play it.
Yeah, I feel like this is the game that's going to have legs on Steam, right? Like
Yeah.
those people that are hard up for zombie survival games.
Totally, and it's budget price, right? It's $20.
$20. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. This was a Ubisoft game. I imagine it took this long because of some contract they signed with Nintendo. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the game was very difficult to port. I'd be willing to bet that these ports were done.
It doesn't-
a while ago.
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
it 2 years
It
ago. and it's
doesn't
been
look a
sitting on
ton
them.
better than the Wii
Yeah.
version either.
See, that's really disappointing that they didn't fix anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's the game is actually like creepy and kind of has you on edge because of what death means, and so I was constantly more focused on like looking at my radar and like checking the lighting and the shadows
Right.
and stuff. So like you don't really, if you stop and look at something, you're like, well, that doesn't look very good. But I never paid attention to that.
That's really reassuring then as a game. It's like it is interesting enough that you're not thinking about how bad it looks.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
What are the PC options like? Do you know? Have you checked out like the like
I don't think it's super
graphic settings
robust
or anything? Okay,
No,
I
no.
didn't think so. It's a Ubisoft game. It rarely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bummer that they removed the multiplayer because that was super interesting. It was this
Yeah.
asynchronous or asymmetrical multiplayer where the player with the gamepad was almost like a dungeon master.
Oh,
and
wow.
controlling, like spending this currency to choose which zombies they wanted and placing them in the map, sort of on the fly as the other players running through the map, and you're like, oh, they're going down this route. I'm going to put a ton of zombies around this next corner. Now something, I don't know, interesting, like sort of Fable Legends is doing a similar thing.
Sword Coast Legends, I think.
Yeah,
That
totally.
canceled
too.
BioWare game.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jesus.
Shadow
yeah.
Realms.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Last thing I want to say about this, even though your character is just this faceless random person, they do a great job of making the NPCs you find really weird. There's a character who takes you into a safe house and he's just like, yeah, I just help people. And you're like, well, why? Like, why would you do this?
Well, you're gonna end up
like,
murdered.
You kind of figure out why he like lets people into his safe house, and then when you find a way to potentially escape London, maybe he gets really like upset with you and like tries to like keep control of you. It's just weird. Like there are people with weird motivations.
That's interesting, and I wish there was more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like to the extreme, like a super hokey version of it, but like the Dead Rising games always had a really good way of doing that.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's lots of zombies, but there's also that guy that's super unhinged.
Everyone's really quirky, and it just gives that game a bit of personality.
Yeah, there's a guy who's like locked down Buckingham Palace and is like struggling to find a cure, and he's like has all these imprisoned zombies that he kills and like
man.
uses.
Wow.
There's so much cool stuff going on.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
Zombie. Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about Paladins? I did the same thing.
Yeah. Well, Marty started it. Marty started singing Cranberries.
I started the Cranberries, founding member of the Cranberries.
Yes, he did. I'd love to see that band picture. Just you're off in the corner.
Shout out to Ireland.
Somebody please Photoshop a black and white picture of Marty into a Cranberries album cover.
Please.
Just really nondescript, like kind of in the corner, hanging out. Like maybe he just walked into the room.
I feel like I would have been like 6 when that album came out.
Probably.
Or 8.
Or 8, yeah.
Inside jokes.
So
you saw Paladins.
I did.
That's a game that it's from Hi-Rez Studios, who did Smite and
Tribes of Sand and Global Agenda.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it outside. Like, you went to Atlanta and you saw it, and we have like 40,000 hours of video on the site about this game, and I don't know anything about it still.
Captured a bunch of coverage. So yeah, basically Paladins is sort of Hi-Rez Studios' next venture, right? Like they hit it big with Smite. Smite's over 10 million players now, doing real well for itself, and they thought we would like to do a first-person shooter, sort of sci-fi fantasy based around one of the game mode premises of Smite is you walk this giant siege engine towards the enemy base and then get through the layers of the base, crack the vault, and you win, right?
How you feeling about all this, Marty?
I'm interested in this. I'm on board right now.
All right.
Yeah. So at its core, what it is, it's a team-based shooter, right? So think Team Fortress 2. But it's sort of sci-fi fantasy, like a fantasy. They described it as like a fantasy game set through 1,000 years in the future. So like magic and technology are sort of intertwined and all that good stuff. But the really interesting part about it is, it's not like a team-based shooter that you're used to. It's like everything's projectile fire. So like you actually have to dodge and weave around shots.
So it's like Smite.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it feels kind of Smitey, right?
Because everything in Smite, like even the right clicks are skill shots.
Yeah, to a degree. In the abilities as well, you can sort of dodge them. Some stuff is instant cast, but like it's a first-person shooter, and you're firing your gun and you're dodging the shots. But then there's also this really super interesting sort of card mechanic as well, whereas that harkens back to a MOBA, right? Like as you play a MOBA or Smite or Dota or whatever, and you're earning gold, you're buying items that increase your power. So like you increase in power, you accelerate as the game goes. And in Paladins, exact same way, except you're pulling cards. And so the cards do different things.
Cards are live? It's not like
you make a deck before the game with 15 cards, and then every time you level, you pull 3 cards and you choose the one you want.
Oh, okay.
But the catch is like the higher your level, the more powerful the card is. So on level 1, maybe you're like, oh, I don't want that card because I know a level 5 version of that card is just going to wreck everything.
Oh, interesting.
So
can you decline the card?
Yeah. Well, you have to choose a card, but you don't have to choose.
But then the other 2 go back into the deck.
Yeah, then the other 2 go back in the deck.
So it might be like, I know that my attack or magic damage that I would get buffed from these cards will be better later. So I'll just take the healing, the passive heal.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll my level 1, I'll take a slight boost to run speed, and then when level 5 comes around and it's the top tier version of that card, then you're like, well, now I want this, and it lets me crit 50%. Generally, no.
Okay.
Generally, you can only get like sort of cards. I don't remember if you can pull 2 of the same card, but from what I remember is the decks are fairly closely monitored, though you can build your own decks.
So that's interesting because then you're relying on both the luck of the draw and your faith. Like you were saying, like, okay, I know the card is in there that's better at a later level.
Yeah.
I'm going to decline this one in hopes that I get that one later.
And the thing is you don't just stop at 5. So like once you hit 5 and you get the strongest card you can, level 6 is another strongest version, and it replaces your first card that you took.
Oh, okay.
So it's a 15 card deck?
15 card deck, yeah.
And then do you have to earn those 15 cards before the some way in the game to make the deck, or is there just like a list of cards and you make your 15?
So when I played it, it was real early. So I'm not exactly sure if they're going to, like, I assume they're going to start you with a recommended deck for every character. And then there will be ways to earn more cards, which they didn't really get into.
Oh, I wonder what that could be.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if they're going to charge for cards that are really good.
Yeah, they didn't really get into it, but I have a feeling there will be a way to earn more cards and buy more cards. If the Smite pricing model is anything, the way they sell Smite, is going to be a way to purchase cards that you want. Card. Yeah, and then Hi-Rez is actually really good about making like the best stuff earnable in game, and the stuff that you really like skins and mounts and whatever.
Yeah.
That's stuff that you can spend.
Also, everyone has a mount in that game.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Has a mount, yeah.
So you can just like start riding a horse around.
Yeah, so the maps are much bigger. Like every character's got 2 abilities, a movement ability, like a bomb and a gun that shoots blasty stuff, and then blasty stuff, and then a movement ability, and then the last one is a mount. It's not really an ability, but everyone has a mount. The maps are way open. Like none of this really corridor stuff. It's very much sort of big open area with like key points that you go and you fight over in like sort of a King of the Hill type game, and then the winner of the King of the Hill spawns a siege engine, which you walk towards their base. So there's like a meta game that starts the full meta game.
So it's definitely like you have to walk this thing down a lane, but how are the levels laid out? Like, does it feel like a shooter map?
No, it feels like a wide open map. It feels like I don't know if you guys are familiar with like World of Warcraft Battlegrounds areas.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, a Arathi Basin or something, where it's just this big open area, and there are nodes that you capture. You know, the lumber mill and all of that stuff. This is the same way. There's the ruined city and the valley and the canyon, and you know. A King of the Hill node will randomly spawn in one of those. You go, you fight for it, you get it, and then you walk the cannon into their base, and you got to break through like 3 different levels of it.
Do you see or feel any tribes leftovers in there?
I was really looking forward.
No jetpack guy?
Yeah, not a whole lot.
Not so much?
Not a whole lot of that stuff. I was looking for it. I did get the tribes thing with like the projectiles, because it does feel like you're kind of, some characters are made to like sort of bounce around, and then some characters are made to fulfill a specific role, like not a tank role per se, but there's a guy with a shield that pops it out, and you can watch all this footage on the site right now. But there's a guy with a shield that like pops it out, and you know, he can soak up a ton of damage while you're capturing nodes. So,
So are you've played some Black Ops 3, and like no matter what character you pick, you're almost always identical to the other players until you're using your ability for a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it like that in Paladins, or do you like? I'm the tank guy. Like, I always feel like the tank guy.
Every character, and they have names. They are characters. It's not like tank, mage, healer kind of thing. They all have their own personalities, and they actually did a really good job about bringing those personalities to life, both you know, through the characters themselves and their abilities. But like, each character has their own way to fire. Like, one guy has a flamethrower. One guy has like a staff that shoots just a continuous laser. You know, one guy
laser staff.
One guy like lobs grenades. One guy just has the chain gun. You know, so each character fires their own projectiles differently.
Yeah, that part of it reminds me of Battleborn a little bit. Just in terms of the characters having actual like personality and being like, oh, you're not just like nameless dude number 15, like you are this character.
Yeah, I think the term floating around the industry right now is like hero shooter.
Oh, yeah.
I think what it is.
A hooter.
The Hooters.
Love it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And we love it so much.
We are seeing a move to that, so it'll be interesting to see how all these games sort of compete with each other next year.
Yeah.
Right?
I really, really hope that the cards don't become like a really scummy pay scheme thing, because there is a massive problem for potential for pay to win there.
Yep, there totally is. I can't speak to. It looked like there was a pretty robust number of cards anyway, and that since there is that random element in it, you know, people who make a better deck with these cards that they're given are going to have a better time anyway, rather than just loading a deck full of like super powered offensive cards. But you know, knowing playing Smite the way I do, and having played it for a long time, like I'm inclined to give Hi-Rez the benefit of the doubt, because Smite is a really, really like genuinely unintrusive free-to-play model.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So, I think it'll be okay, but it's still a ways out. So we'll have to
do you get the sense they have like similar competitive ambitions like they do with Smite, or is this more like Team Fortress 2, where it's like, it's fun, you can play it over there?
No, they want this to be an esport for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Interesting.
Which, you know, I know
luck in an esport is just like so weird.
It is To a degree, yeah. Anytime you add RNG into like a hyper-competitive environment, there's always room for...
Right, like that team could be winning dominantly, and then somebody draws a card, and it's like, well, we can't do anything because he drew the card.
Then at the same time, look at like Magic the Gathering, right? Like there is a heavy RNG factor in that, and yet people say the way that you construct your decks before the match should factor in for RNG, right? Should factor in for that random element.
Yeah, it's like why you would... put a certain number of a certain card in your deck.
Exactly.
Less or more land, depending on what you want to do.
100%. Yeah. So I feel like it's the same thing here. Like there's a way to always be viable depending on whatever you draw.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. It's a super interesting premise, and it's kind of hard to explain until you actually see it in action.
Yeah, and we have a ton of footage. Like, go check it out on IGN.
I captured many hours of footage. So
you were gone for 2 days and came back with just a mountain of...
You came back with more than 48 hours.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I don't know what you did.
How does Atlanta work?
Good work.
So you can check it all out on IGN right now.
This is a 2016 game?
At least.
Yeah.
I think they're shooting for beta at the end of the year, but I don't know how feasible that is.
Yeah.
We'll see. It played really well. It looked like it was in good shape when I saw it.
Cool.
And they kept that under wraps really well too.
Yeah.
So
It didn't leak.
Yeah. That's nice. I'm trying to remember the name of the game from Runic, but Runic announced their new game, Hob. Oh, it's from the Torchlight team.
Torchlight.
Yeah.
So I didn't really play Torchlight, but I remember Charles on Yet when he worked here, and he was in charge of the PC stuff here.
Oh man!
Wow, we just had like a moment of silence for Charles.
You remember Charles?
Did everyone get that chill when the ghost came up?
You can relive the spirit of Charles on Yet via his short stories available now on Kindle. Charles is a really good writer. You should go read Charles' books. So Charles, he lobbied really hard for Torchlight for Game of the Year one year, Torchlight 2.
Really?
And I didn't know anything about it, and he sat us down at his computer, and he's like, all right, here's how it works. Here's what it is. Here's why it's great. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, Torchlight is one of those games that I just never connected with. I've never really been super into the Diablo hack and slash dungeon crawly thing. It's just never really been my thing. So that Runic's new game, Hob, doesn't look like that at all. Like, it looks like they're like, hey, what if we made a game that looked like Torchlight but was made for Marty?
Yeah, totally.
Is really exciting, and we're going to see it at PAX.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It sort of gives off that eco sort of vibe of characters exploring an environment and not really engaging in combat.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That's when I watch a trailer for a game like that, my first thought is Marty.
Yep.
Marty. It's a Marty game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the what was the what's the PS4 game that got announced and is never coming out? Rhyme?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Rhyme.
Yeah.
God, I hope Rhyme comes out.
Yeah, Hob looks God, the screenshots they released are incredible looking.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that we didn't get to see much gameplay, but I'm relieved that we're going to get to play it in a week, which is nice. But the trailer, like, it has, similar to Paladins, it has that combination of, like, here's some weird technology and steampunk, futuristic stuff combined with old fantasy magic.
Yeah, it's weird. The art is very nice and colorful, but everything's, like, outlined with black lines and looks like its own separate thing.
Yeah.
And
Really?
even though it's all, like
cell shading kind of stuff, or
yeah, maybe not quite that thick, but the world, even though it looks so like beautiful and colorful and light, it like moves mechanically and like rearranges with like machinery sounds. I have no clue what's going on.
Very strange. Yeah, it's a bizarre game, and I mean we're gonna get to play it. We'll come back and report on that. But I don't know. Like, did Torchlight ever do anything for you? Like, what did you ever want anything like this from this dev?
I mean, I liked Torchlight a lot as an alternative to Diablo. I think the art style, the sort of cartoony fantasy, sort of steampunkish, from what I remember, was really interesting. I'm curious to see how they take that. Like,
I almost wonder if like they were going to do Torchlight 3 and then Diablo actually came out and now they're like actually irrelevant.
Yeah.
Torchlight is an amazing game, but
you can't outspend Blizzard.
compete?
Yeah, like in a world with Diablo, what do you even do? How do you compete with that?
Yeah.
And like Diablo 3 wasn't amazing at launch, but like they've supported that game super well, and now it's really good.
Diablo 3 is now the game that it probably should have been at launch.
Yeah. I always like when a developer sort of gets seemingly outside of its comfort zone, because they could have very easily just done another game that was another Torchlight or another game that was very much like, oh, okay, these are the Torchlight guys.
Yeah, like the way they talk about it, like I wrote down their like big description here. It's very philosophical in terms of like how they talk about the world, and their website has like very philosophical discussions about what the universe is and stuff like that. And then it says Hobbs is presented without text or dialogue. Narrative is revealed as players explore and interact with their unfamiliar surroundings and the strange life forms that inhabit it.
Can we talk about the most important thing though?
Yeah.
It quote, featuring smooth controller gameplay.
Ooh, smooth controller gameplay.
Controller gameplay?
Yeah.
I'm so tired of all this rugged controller gameplay, y'all.
Yeah.
So This is the thing that excites me the most and also worries me the most is some people rely heavily on it's environmental storytelling to compensate for the fact that there is no story. It's like, well, we didn't want to write anything, but look, there's a cave, and what's in the cave?
Emergent.
Environmental storytelling.
It's emergent storytelling.
That's what's in the cube.
Yeah.
You have to I think environmental storytelling.
Environmental storytelling.
Yeah.
What's in the cube?
What's in the cube? The best kind of environmental storytelling is obviously developers like Valve are really good at it.
Yeah.
They communicate both, text, dialogue, whatever they have people talking to you, but you can also infer a lot about the universe via what's in the universe. Left 4 Dead was especially good with this. Portal, Half-Life has some of it, but there's a lot more to Half-Life than environmental storytelling.
This does not mean write crap on your walls in blood.
Yeah. Help in blood. Look.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted
They're coming.
Help, but now they're dead.
Who wrote that?
Yeah.
Run! Why are you just run? Why are you doing this? That's the dumbest stuff. But this seems like it's not going to have that, right? You're out in the woods and exploring, and it's about puzzle solving, and they never mention anywhere that you're going to fight a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's the threat? What's the environmental storytelling? Is it about what happened to this world, and now you're out trying to figure it out? I don't know. Super interesting.
It is, quote, a planet in peril. So, what does that mean?
Okay.
There's an end game, apparently.
Yeah, but
If there's peril, there's something's happening.
There's got to be conflict if there's peril.
Yeah, I mean, being able to tell a good story with words is just as difficult as being able to tell a good story without words. And so, I mean, it's one thing to just be like, hey, this place is really pretty and I'm wandering around, but it's another thing to actually get something out of it. And necessarily, I don't know. Sometimes just wandering around a place and feeling some sort of emotion is good enough. Like Proteus does that.
Everybody's gone to the Rapture.
Everybody's gone to the Rapture.
I'm thinking Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah,
or,
totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Below is getting hits of that as well.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That's a really good point. To the point of Sword and Sorcery, yes, there's a story, but it's about being in a place and just reacting to man, something bad happened here.
Yeah.
Or I like this cute thing and I would like to make sure that they don't die. So I'm going to go into that terrifying place and do whatever I can to protect these people.
Right.
And if you can motivate people without saying anything, like Cappy is really good at, then
Cappy's really good
that's
at
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to your point, I think it's almost harder to tell a story without words or narrative or exposition, right?
Totally.
The Witness also does stuff like that from what I've played so far.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
J Blow.
Is that game ever coming out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
It is? Is there a date for it?
God.
No.
Sometime.
We'll go off mic.
Over here?
Mitch, I think they can still hear us.
Oh, man. Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, environmental storytelling and weird games. I don't know if anybody else had any final thoughts on that before we advance.
Oh, man. Titan Souls was great for that.
Yeah, Titan Souls did that really well. I think music plays a huge role in it. When talking about Sword and Sorcery, that's when I think of that world, the first thing I think of is Jim Guthrie's score.
Totally.
And so if you're going to try to tell a wordless story, then you better be able to invoke emotion using music.
I think emotion, right? Emotion is super powerful as far as telling stories without words or text.
I think you can even have an interesting world without necessarily having a story or environmental storytelling. Fez was really good at just being a really amazing place. I felt a sense of wonder and I wanted to see it and just explore all these different avenues of there's mushrooms that you bounce on and you go outside and there's an outhouse or a lighthouse with an owl on it.
Yeah.
I call it an outhouse because I combine those things.
An owl house.
An owl house.
And even though there's not
Owls sound like.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever met an owl before.
They go who?
What's a moose sound like? And a cow?
It's I have face blindness, but it's animal sound blindness.
The cow goes.
You're that one girl from Hannibal and just can't see anything.
Jesus.
Man, what a disaster. Where are we? What are we talking about? Let's just unsubtly move on. I don't want to transition out of anywhere.
I had a decent transition I was working on, but I didn't get enough time to figure it out.
You just gave up? That was it?
I just stopped. Basically, I was going to point out, we're saying we like when developers do different things. I was going to say, hey,
speaking of developers doing different things,
Creative Assembly did Alien, which is totally different from their RTS.
Yes.
Total War
Pedigree.
stuff. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, who's making Halo Wars 2?
Yeah, so we didn't really
smooth.
We didn't really get to talk a lot about Halo Wars either. There's just been so much going on between Gamescom and Comic-Con and PAX and TGS is coming up. Everyone is so busy at IGN that we haven't really had a moment to sit down and breathe and go man, they're making Halo Wars 2.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Weird.
And it's coming to PC. Thank God this thing is coming to PC. I love the idea of a console RTS, but it's the best console RTSs are PC games that were then figured out for console.
Yeah.
And I loved Halo Wars, but I liked Red Alert 3 a lot more, and I liked a lot of other RTSs a lot more. Did you guys play Halo Wars?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right,
Definitely.
thoughts?
I loved Halo Wars.
Okay.
Less because it was a RTS and more because it was a Halo game that explored things outside the traditional lens of a Halo game.
And it just didn't feel like an RTS that looked like Halo, the
Yeah.
Warthogs fishtailed and did all
yeah.
the crazy stuff that Halo vehicles do. Combat really felt like Halo encounters. The boss fights were incredible. Like they felt like fighting a scarab in the same way it did in Halo 3.
Yeah, that map or that mission was really good.
Yeah.
There's like a down scarab and it can't move, but it can still shoot.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Kinda
like
avoid
you
it.
gotta
Yeah.
go behind areas. It was almost like a puzzle game in some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it was heavily scripted, which I like.
Sure.
Like, I there's something to be said for just throwing a bunch of units on a map and seeing
All
what
units.
happens. Just all the units on the map and seeing what happens. But there's something also to be said for crafting a good level in an RTS.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's something that doesn't happen as much, especially Creative Assembly is the Total War guys, and that game is literally a strategy element, but then the RTS or the combat element is throwing your dudes on
Yeah.
the field. So I'm curious to see how they do a narratively driven RTS.
Yeah, because the thing about Total War games for me is I play them like a board game.
Yeah.
I don't play them like a strategy game. I simulate all
You
combat.
simulate the fights. I
just,
ain't got time
it's,
for this.
It's too slow. It's a level of strategy that is just beyond me. I love strategy games, but to a certain layer, and anything beyond that layer, I'm just this is too much for me. I cannot process this.
I could do this if I committed to this, but I don't want
Yeah.
to do that
Yeah.
right now.
And I love the idea of Halo Wars having some kind of galactic campaign, like a Total War game, that you can then go in and do missions. Obviously, it won't because it's not a Total War game.
Right. But I'd play the hell out of Halo Total War.
Me too. But given that this is Creative Assembly, I'm hoping there's more creativity to Halo Wars 2 than simply doing, it's Halo Wars, but it's set during Halo 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Halo Wars is great, but it had a lot of room to grow, and I think it was lacking a lot of RTS sophistication that it could have had if it were on PC.
Yeah.
We know Halo Wars 2 takes place immediately after Halo Wars. Which
Oh,
is
really?
still we do, and that's still about 20 years before the first.
So it's
Halo.
still a
Yeah.
prequel.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's First Contact, wasn't it?
Halo
Wars was I think a little after First Contact.
it was after Reach had been
Harvest?
glassed.
Yeah.
Harvest was First Contact.
Harvest was First Contact.
Yes.
Okay. Man, these timelines.
I think
Yeah.
I can't remember
'Cause
because
there's-
Halo Wars has been so
We're
long.
getting into the weeds.
The same three Spartans that were the main
Yeah.
characters of Halo Wars were in the trailer for Halo Wars.
Were
2.
they? I did not pick
Was
up
that
on that
them?
at all.
Well,
They were all wearing
based on
green
their-
armor at the
based
end
on
of
their
Halo.
genders and their call numbers. You can be
okay.
sure it's them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it takes place right after. There's an evil brute. And he's hitting people with a hammer.
Yeah, I
It's
like
really
that.
bad.
Their big reveal is here's an enemy from Halo 3. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a cool trailer, and I like that it's happening, and I'm very excited for it. But it's what an anticlimactic way to say Halo Wars 2 is
Was
coming. It's
that the boss that was it
Tartarus?
Tartarus?
It wasn't
Yeah,
Tartarus.
It wasn't Tartarus.
It was
just a
another
brute.
chieftain with the gravity hammer.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we saw gameplay. I really wish we saw gameplay because I like CG trailers, and it's obviously a very pretty thing. But what is this game? I'm so confused about what Halo Wars is,
Well-
and I don't really know what I want from it aside from what if it was just Total War.
And I would just also it's to me the fact that it's going to be on PC and console, they're going to play very differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, they're going to have different speeds.
Are they
seemingly.
going to be crossplay? Can you play on console and I play on PC? and
that-
just wreck
that would
you?
be. I mean, yeah, that's the whole thing. Is that's what it'd be like playing a competitive shooter crossplay, and be the PC guy's going to win 100 times.
It looks like Microsoft is merging Xbox and Windows in every way they can.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean,
Which
who
is great.
knows?
I love that initiative,
Yeah.
and we've talked about that on the show before. Dan is sort of against it, and other people are not. But I love the idea that you could play in a playlist where that's an option. It's I'm on a controller. I'm confident enough in myself. I'll play against PC people, but to have it as an option is so important when you're
Yeah.
unifying this
Yeah.
stuff. You can't have Call of Duty players playing against console players from the PC. You just can't do
Yeah.
it.
The main thing I want from Halo Wars 2, and this is kind of asking a lot, is 3 really good campaigns. Because Halo Wars had one campaign. It was the human campaign. No Covenant campaign, and Flood showed up, but there was no Flood campaign.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And,
You
like,
want a flood
Playing as a
campaign?
flood would be
Jesus.
amazing.
Three units is that's the RTS thing. 3 army types, but it just works.
You want it to be
works
StarCraft?
really well.
Yeah,
And
you
have
totally
it-
want
you
to
want it to be
the
StarCraft.
Zeratul
Yeah.
campaign and the Kerrigan campaign.
Flood Rush.
and-
Yeah.
Sure,
Flood
the
Rush.
good old
Yeah.
Flood Rush.
Spoiling Rush. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say spoilers.
I did.
Spoilers. Blood Rush. Spoilers.
Is that a minor stroke? I don't know what happened.
No, there were. Oh God, we're getting back. Do you remember? you remember the AVP RTS on console on the original Xbox?
Yeah.
It was trash.
No.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
AVP is an Alien vs Predator.
Yeah.
I remember the game AVP, like the shooter.
No, they
the
made
shooter,
an
but-
RTS.
No,
yeah,
what?
and it came out on console. Yeah, and I think one of the Alien campaigns was like you started with a face hugger and you had to go like start hugging faces and like that,
Which is awesome. This sounds great.
That is how you build an army, and I would love like a flood version of that. Right?
That could be interesting.
You
Yeah.
start with one Sporling, and you have to go get PV's like Private Johnson, and then now he becomes the flood, and then
Not
he
Private
goes.
Johnson.
You know, he's not paying attention. He's not paying attention. I would love to see that though, like dynamic campaigns.
Yeah.
I think what I want to see most from Halo Wars 2 is a lot of the battles in Halo Wars, and I liked it for this, and I still think it's valuable to have this, is most of them felt like an encounter where you could hit a button and be Master Chief on the ground, and it would feel like a Halo encounter. Like, they seem to design them similar to Bungie's encounters, where it's like, all right, there's 2 pods up there, and there's a ghost driving around, and there's 2 elites, and then there's 25 grunts or whatever. And you just got to pick through them using vehicles and units and whatever. I hope that this can sort of, given the growth of technology, and like we have DX12 and it's running on Xbox One, it's got PC, and it's all the infinite power of whatever, especially if you use the cloud, it's like, what if you had gigantic battles that were more representative of war, similar to Total War, right? Like Total War's scale is enormous, and it just feels good to control that many units, be like, all right, this totally massive group of soldiers is just smashing into another one, and they came out on top because I, sent somebody from over here, and it's big. The scale is enormous. I hope that there's some element of that in Halo Wars 2. Like, to just feel like you're at war as opposed to in a skirmish.
Yeah, like you were saying, if they're going to zoom the camera out, zoom it way out.
Yeah.
Not literally. I mean, literally, I guess.
Into
But
space.
yeah. Into space.
What does literally way out mean?
Literally way out.
I don't mean literally, like, as in,
play
like,
No
the
Man's
camera's
Sky.
zooming out. I just mean as in, like, the scope gets... F you guys. I'm not explaining myself. I'm not explaining myself to any of you.
I don't know you anything.
How would you feel... I was just thinking when you were saying, like, it feels like with a click of a button you could just zoom in on the ground and become Master Chief of a asymmetrical game where someone is literally on the ground as a Spartan and then the other player is playing an RTS.
Sort of like a Battlefield thing where you have a commander
mode. Yeah, I don't know if that would work. I don't know if like
Yeah.
how the
That'd be
balancing would
awesome.
work.
I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Commander mode was you would tell someone to do something, and you were rewarded if they did it. But then if they didn't, it's like, well, why am I here?
Yeah.
So to that point, it'd be cool if it's like, okay, we called in a Spartan and I just summoned another a player on Xbox or whatever.
Yeah.
So it
And
sounded
now
like
they're helping this gigantic faction of strategic units that you're controlling en masse.
this sounded kind of like the sort of relationship between Dust 514 and Eve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But having that in a more real-time capacity could be excellent.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I feel like there was a while back there was an RTS that was trying to do this thing where, you are controlling the battlefield, but at any time you can jump into any of the characters and play them in an action capacity. And I don't think it ever actually happened. I think that dream was too big for the time.
There was the Command & Conquer Renegade, or was Renegade the shooter? There was a Command & Conquer game where you could do that.
Really?
Oh, no, I reviewed
the bears?
a game. I reviewed a game that was an RTS, and then at any moment you could jump down and control a dude.
Was it Kingdom Under Fire?
No, it was like
Ninja Gaiden 3?
Raven. Oh, hang on. I got to find this. Somebody vamp. I got to look this up. This game was so cool in concept, and the missions were very much designed to be shooter missions.
Yeah.
But that you could, you got a lay of the land, like I'm going to hide in this bush and wait for this patrol, and then I'm going to take over, go and knife him. Like lots of really cool ideas, but the game itself just wasn't very good.
That was a little bit how Brothers in Arms worked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good call. About
Yeah,
that.
a much smaller scale.
Much smaller
obviously,
scale.
but-
Yeah. But again, sort of that, like, you can play this as a shooter, but really you have to take a step back and play this as a strategy game.
Yeah, and I think that, God, I really want Relic to announce whatever they're working on. Like, I don't care what it is, if it's a Warhammer game, if it's Company of Heroes 3, like, Relic is so good at making an action game that is a strategy game that feels like you're controlling a person. Like, Dawn of War 2, like, even if you don't like Warhammer, go play Dawn of War 2. It's on sale every day for, like, $1 on Steam. Like, it's always so cheap. And it's really cool. It's an RPG. It's a character game, but you're at the same time, like, you have these heroes, but then you have, like, backup.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to have a small squad of dudes.
Yeah, it's like
Raven Squad is the game. I found it.
Oh man, that sounds real good.
Raven Hey, do you know what the tagline of that game is?
What's that, Marty?
Screw You were so you were so defeated when you're like, yes, I know what the tagline is. It's scraw.
Why did I not see this coming? Damn it! We're leaving. You can
What'd
find
you give
me
the game? Was it good?
What's that? Raven Squad?
What'd you give it?
What did I give it? I reviewed
25?
it for OXM, so that online review is dead. You can find it in the magazine if you have it. I don't know what issue it was. If you buy magazines 10 years ago, you can go read my review on OXM.
Don't do that.
Sorry. Well, the thing is, like, I freelanced for so many websites before I got here, and all of them are just gone. GamePro literally doesn't exist. All that content is just gone forever.
Yeah.
It's so depressing.
Like tears in the rain.
Like tears in the rain. You can find me on Twitter. My name is @MitchyD. Marty is @McBiggity. 2 G's, 2 T's. Brandon is
Brandon Tyro.
Brandon Tyro. 2 R's, 1 L.
2 R's, 1 L.
Yes.
Nicely done.
Brian is @Albino Albert. Marty, what are you working on? You want to talk about?
Nothing.
Nothing. Marty's literally contributing
No,
nothing. To
I
this
reviewed
company.
Tales from the Borderlands episode 4. I did not like it.
I'm with you.
Worst episode in that series so far.
Curse of the Four.
Yeah, Curse of the Force. The Force continue.
To like an even more extreme degree than usual.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's rough.
Yeah, it's not good. But we did a spoiler cast on that. Mitch, myself, and Esme, which is probably up by the time this episode goes up. I
Yep.
don't know how that works.
I think it's up now.
So check that out. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Cast.
Brandon,
Hey.
what are you doing?
What am I doing? I just reviewed Smite on Xbox One.
Nice.
So that review is live as of, I don't know when this is going up, but
Whatever.
today or yesterday, one of the two.
All right.
And
What if you're listening to this review or this podcast 2 years from now?
2 years
You're
from
like,
now.
oh, I love.
I was like, oh, I shouldn't have
Overclocked
dated
episode
it.
201. I wonder where this all came from.
Yeah. It's just like somebody just decides
do-
to go.
It came from right here.
We're going to do 200 episodes in 2 years?
Well, it's not like I told him to go read my.
I don't. No.
4 a week?
Yeah. No problem.
That's
I don't know how
That's not
math
how it
works. I don't know how math works.
Yeah.
it'd be too
Okay. You can go find that on IGN. And what's doing Mad Max next week? So come back.
nice.
Oh, are you doing the review?
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's gonna be a good one.
I hope so. I'm very worried about that game.
Oh, I mean a good review. Like it's gonna be.
It's gonna be the best
be a
damn thing
big-
I've ever written.
It's gonna be a big game, and I'm gonna write a lot of words about it. So you can come and read that next week. So do that, please. And then,
Please.
Brian Albert, what are you working on?
Chewie, get us out of here.
Zombie review is up. It's not on PC. Well, I guess it is on PC technically in a weird way. I'm reviewing Gears of War, the Ultimate Edition. You can play the really old one on PC for games for Windows Live.
It is launching day and date on PC.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, I played it on Xbox One, and I've always liked that game, but never understood why people who are very, very smart love that game. And like, I think I get it now.
You're finally getting it.
I think I'm
Yeah.
getting it. So I hope that comes through in the review. So please read it.
Gears of War. Smart people love it.
They do.
That's because it's got Razor Hail.
Sponsored by Mensa.
It does
No,
not have
2?
Razor Hill. 2 has Razor
No,
Hill.
you don't know if this version adds Razor
If they
Hail.
add Razor Hill back to Gears 1,
Is there Razor Hail in this game?
There's Krill.
Krill's like Razor Hill, but it's a bird.
It's alive.
Damn it!
Totally walking
We'll see you next week for episode 6. Thank you so much for joining us.